It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcast and follow me on social media at Randy Wang Radio. Here we are. It's day 2 of Curfew Watch in the city of Los Angeles. The night 1 of the 1 mile zone curfew in just downtown LA was successful, and there wasn't a lot of insanity going on. Before the curfew, you saw people walking onto the freeway, but that got knocked down very quickly, and so far today has seemed pretty quiet, although that doesn't stop the news cameras from looking around, especially the areas that were hit by destruction and the looting. And Fox 11 just showed the images of a sign that's in front of a Chinese restaurant in the Chinatown area, which is in the curfew zone. And the sign says, "Please no destroy, very little insurance." If that isn't just an emblem of everything that California is right now, I don't know what is. There's Heart LA's. It says ice only for drinks. Please no destroy, very little insurance. Although insurance is spelled insurin, but I think I know what he was trying to say. Now, today's been an interesting day because today we had press conferences from the U.S. Attorney, Bill Asaley, as well as the LA County District Attorney on criminal charges going out against some of the people that committed some of the violence going all the way back to Friday. The people who were throwing Molotov cocktails on Friday and Saturday, they got federal charges today. And just a couple hours ago, LA County District Attorney, the new LA County District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, the guy that replaced this jackass,
quite frankly,
he held a press conference with Robert Luna and Jim McDonnell, and he wanted to detail some of the felonies that are being charged in the wake of all the violence that we have seen over the last few days. Let's hear what Hochman had to say.
So when we talk about the cases that we are brought, I'm going to highlight 5 cases today that we have brought in order to, again, not to give an example of the types of cases that we are bringing.
So there was more than 5, but they want to give you 5 categories, 5 different things they're looking at, 5 examples that show you the kind of behavior that will not be tolerated.
And as importantly, the types of potential criminal consequences the individuals who've engaged in this criminal activity will face. And in saying that, we will be having literally dozens and dozens of additional cases that will be brought to us from law enforcement to consider filing.
Apparently, they're going to be looking through every single piece of video, and there is a lot of video for the people shooting off the fireworks, the people looting the Apple store, the people setting the Waymos on fire. I don't understand any of this violence, but I really don't understand why they were going after the Waymos. And some of these people, possibly what they did was they called the Waymo for a pickup and then decided to destroy it and set it on fire. Look, AI is growing at an advanced rate. So advanced that someone literally just made an AI song out of my grill commercial for Solaire Grills. Maybe I'll play that later on a slower news day. We don't want to start this relationship up with the advanced robots by them knowing that we want to attack them and destroy them. Because if the Waymo suddenly has feelings and it tells all the other robots, we're going to have an uprising that's scarier than anything you can imagine. So stop blowing up the Waymos.
In the weeks to come, we will look through all those cases. And by the way, as a quick aside, for any individual who's engaged in criminal conduct but did not get immediately arrested, let me provide some bad news for you. There's a tremendous amount of video out there through social media and otherwise. We will know who you are, who engaged in this conduct.
I mean, hell, some of them were posting the videos on their own accounts.
We will track you down. We will arrest you. We will prosecute you, and we will punish you.
How about the staffer for Isabel Urado? That one of them?
So, for people who've already engaged in this illegal activity, we're coming for you.
And I know it's not much, but it's refreshing hearing at least just that from the guy who replaced Gascon.
We got some Walloonese allies.
Because in the 4 years of Gascon, there were plenty of crazy protests. You had the Hamas protesters shutting down the freeways, and you never heard anything like this. You never heard anything like, we're going to come after you. No, no, no. It was making excuses for them. Homeless person sets the Palisades on fire in 2021, and George Gascon, what did he say? He said, well, that person was probably cold.
For people who are thinking that maybe this is a good idea to do, please take this as your warning. That if you engage in this conduct, please don't come to us afterwards and say, we didn't think anything was going to happen to us. Because,
well, they probably did think that, but maybe things will change. Now that it seems like the police are allowed to do their jobs, which is thanks to the curfew, LAPD was able to make arrests immediately before these people did something destructive because they're not supposed to be there.
Because those prosecutions will occur. And again, before I go into the examples, let me give you one more overview. If you only saw the social media and the media reports of what's gone on over the last 5 days, you would think that Los Angeles is on the verge of war.
Oh, no. Are you doing this too? There has been, and I don't understand who gives out the marching orders or who exactly takes them, but whether it's interviews with Karen Bass, it's the LA County Board of Supervisors, Assemblyman Isaac Bryan, now Hochman, it seems that there's this concerted effort to make sure everyone's aware of the obvious, that because these protests were focused in downtown LA, it's not like the entire massive city of Los Angeles that goes all the way from San Pedro to the San Fernando Valley was burning. I think that's fairly obvious, and I don't know why we need to point that out. It doesn't make what happened in Los Angeles on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday any more acceptable, the fact that it didn't happen in the San Fernando Valley. So I don't really understand why we have to point that out. Just because it was contained to a few square miles doesn't mean it was acceptable.
That we are truly being attacked repeatedly, over and over and over again, because that has been the media's message to both people in Los Angeles, to people in the state of California.
Which media are we talking about? If it's the social media, people are literally looking at the clips. And just because that was only centered in downtown LA doesn't mean that it was complete wild rioting.
To people in the
People saw the looting of the Apple Store. It doesn't matter that the Apple Store at the Topanga Center wasn't robbed.
To people in this nation, to people throughout this entire world, that somehow every second of every day there's another exploding firework on our street at motors.
Well, there is that, but that's usually at night, and that is mostly in the valley.
At motorcycles are running into cops. At stores.
Oh yeah, someone tried to crash a motorcycle into the police line.
Are being looted.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is happening a lot, but it's not happening under the guise of protesting. It's just your typical smash and grab, or the people that are now using blowtorches to steal things out of the safes at jewelry stores, which, funny thing we learned this week, a lot of jewelry stores, including the ones that were looted in downtown LA on Monday, not insured. Insurance is so expensive in the state of California, jewelers don't have it.
That buildings are being vandalized and graffitied. But let me put this in perspective for you. There are 11 million people in this county, 4 million of which live in Los Angeles City.
Okay, so where are we going with this one, Hochman?
We estimate that there's probably thousands of people who've engaged in legitimate protests. Let's say 4,000 people.
Yes, if you want to go down that road, the vast, vast, vast majority of the people that live in this county did not descend to the streets, whether it was to peacefully protest or to riot. The vast majority of people have their own things to deal with, their own jobs, their own lives. Heck, they're probably in the middle of watching Love Island.
That means that 99.9% of people who live in Los Angeles City or generally in Los Angeles County have not engaged in any protest at all. Now, amongst the people who've engaged in protest, we estimate there are hundreds of people, let's say up to maybe 400 to use rough percentages.
So 10% of the people that are protesting are the criminal element? Fascinating. But again, I don't really understand why he needs to point this out when we're about to bring out criminal charges. We understand the fact that 99% of us would never even think of committing a crime. Maybe it's a little lower. Maybe it's 95% of us. But that small percentage that does, those are the ones that we got to crack down on. So the same thing is true for regular life as it is in the guise of protesting.
Who've engaged in this type of...
Unless, of course, you're Imelda Padilla and you blow through this entire narrative by saying it's the protesters that want to get more violent.
Who've engaged in this type of illegal activity. So what does that mean? That means that 99.99% of people who live in Los Angeles City or live in Los Angeles County have not committed any illegal acts in connection with this protest whatsoever.
And by the way, I think that argument can also be used to show that while this is getting a lot of attention, the vast majority of the people that live in this county don't care enough about this issue to protest it. They got their own things going on. Heck, the Nintendo Switch 2 came out this week. You really expect people to stop playing Mario Kart World and go out in the middle of summer to downtown LA to protest something that they're not even sure what exactly the issue is? This is Los Angeles, and political apathy spreads to all avenues. And you know what? Most of the people who were at these protests were the unions that were connected to the organizations that are funded by city dollars, like Churla.
So let's put that as a context when we look at these images over and over again that the media wants to put out there to try and...
Again, I think it's just lazy to say the media in an age where everyone gets their news from different places. And nobody gets their information from the same place. Everyone is looking at different social media accounts. They listen to different radio stations. They watch different news channels, and everything's got a different perspective. So I do not like just the concept of the media, because there's a whole lot of different kinds of media right now. So who is trying to fan the flames? Everybody? I don't know. Everyone's trying to get their point across. You've got one side saying that what's going on, this federal law enforcement action, is unjust, even though these kinds of things have been happening for years under every possible administration, and it's really nothing new. But the organization behind it is new, and the fact that people are responding immediately to social media. You know, I follow a lot of interesting people on social media, including the DSA-LA, the Democrat Socialists of America, Los Angeles, the people that brought you Ulysses and Hugo and Isabel and Nithya. And they already have like rapid response lines for places where they think ICE is going to be. And then you call, and then they're going to send their people who obviously don't work 9-to-5 jobs to protest and, I don't know, hurl Molotov cocktails.
To try and scare us all. And then understand what the resources that we can bring, that law enforcement can bring to this task. The Los Angeles Police Department has over 8,500 officers.
That's pretty low. Isn't it like 30,000 in New York? And while New York has more population, New York is a very, very, very small geographic area.
Sheriff Luna has over 9,000 officers. The California Highway Patrol, the local law enforcement agencies that have all been enlisted and have been so generous in helping us out.
And, of course, the National Guard. Oh, wait. Gavin didn't call the National Guard. Trump called the National Guard, so no, National Guard is bad. Even though, what was it, a year and a half ago, Gavin called the National Guard to deal with helping out law enforcement in the Tenderloin. That was no rioting. That was just an open-air drug market.
Bring additional thousands of officers.
That's why this whole argument is so nonsensical and not a big deal.
Bring additional thousands of officers if needed.
And you know, let's stop talking about these different agencies like they're faceless people. Whether you're talking about the National Guard being brought in or the Marines being brought in, most of these people are probably from Southern California, and they're being called to protect, even if it's just to, as Karen Bass likes to downplay, protect one building. We saw what happened in 2020 when these things got completely out of control and whole stretches of the city and all different kinds of areas burned. And you want to stomp this thing out immediately. And that's why everyone should be on the same page that the violence is unacceptable. You can protest all you want, but as soon as you start throwing things at police officers, you get to do everything you can. And this is where our local electeds and the federal government should be working together. But of course, that is not allowed in a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state. And that's where the entire plot is lost on all of this. Karen Bass, the LA County Board of Supervisors, the LA City Council keep complaining and complaining and complaining. They don't coordinate with us. They don't tell us when these things are happening. Well, Imelda would then rat on them and tell everyone where they are, and the rapid response would be there. But it's also, you don't want to work with them. You won't let them go into the jails. You won't let them deal with anything on city property. So, and we'll get to that Karen Bass question in a bit, because she was asked about that on KCAL this morning. But it's why all of this is so irritating. The saber rattling that's going on from Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom is right now doing nothing but fundraising. She's literally putting out fundraising emails, and Gavin Newsom sent out fundraising texts today. I got this. Gavin Newsom here, thanking you for your support in recent days and humbly asking that you can donate to my Campaign for Democracy PAC. You know, I'm pretty sure I've hit stop before to end the text, and it's a funny thing about political texts. You hit stop, and they never stop. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. When we come back, we'll hear the examples of some of the felony charges that are going out to some of the rioters who have attacked police officers this week in Los Angeles. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at randykabc@gmail.com. Q writes in and says, hey, Randy, the reason that Hochman had to say that downtown LA isn't a war zone is because there's a few upcoming events that could be delayed or moved out of LA, which would cause loss of revenue to LA. And that includes the NHL draft at the Peacock Theater on June 27th. July 3rd through 6th is the Anime Expo. Plus, the optics do not look good for the World Cup next year and the 2028 Summer Olympics. Those committees can look to move venues to another state. There definitely is legitimate concern about, even before this, you talk about the risk of wildfires, all the other crime that goes on in Los Angeles, the lack of functioning transit, the fact that the freeways don't move, that all of these events are going to make LA look even worse, especially with the current management that we have now. But there's a chance to change that in 2026. Anyone announce that they're running yet? Let's go to Diana in LA. Diana, hello. Diana went bye-bye. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. Let's hear some of these charges that Hochman is laying down at the violent rioters that were at these protests.
If needed, for any level of civil unrest that might occur. And that civil unrest has been on a downward trend over the last several days.
Well, no. That's not true. It was down yesterday because of the curfew, but you could argue it was only escalating every day, leading to the looting of 27 stores, including a whole bunch of jewelry stores in downtown LA on Monday, which led to the curfew. Maybe they should have started with the curfew, which, by the way, is indefinite and goes on until they cancel it.
For the last several days.
Which, what happens if well, I guess the Lakers are already over and hockey's already over. What if a Sparks game goes into double overtime?
For the last several days, but these law enforcement officers are absolutely ready for anything that comes their way.
Can I get a assist on that one, Shangy? You ready? Let's do this.
Have been so over the last several days, but these law enforcement officers are absolutely ready for anything that comes their way.
Thanks, Shangy.
So let me describe these 5 cases. The first case involves a individual who has been charged. His name is Juan Rodriguez. He's from Gardena. He's been charged with 1 felony count of assault upon a peace officer resisting arrest, and advocating violence against an officer that has caused injury.
Oh, nothing major. We'll find exactly what he did to assault that police officer next as charges are being laid down at the first batch of protesters that caused a whole bunch of mayhem over the last 5 days. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. We're going through Hochman's presser. We'll go through Karen Bass's presser. I got all the pressers for you. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. Give me a follow on social media at Randy Wang Radio and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. We're going through Nathan Hochman, the LA County DA's press conference, announcing 5 different cases where he's bringing felony charges to people that were taking place in the riots this week. By the way, because of the curfew yesterday, LAPD was able to do their job and do their job great. More than 220 people were arrested in downtown LA yesterday. This according to Matt Seedorf at Fox 11. The guy whose news van got burned down. This includes one person being accused of pointing a laser at an LAPD helicopter, one assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer, and 3 people in illegal possession of firearms. Peaceful protests, aren't they? We're going to hear exactly what these 5 cases did, that we're getting felony charges, something that no matter what you think of Nathan Hochman would never have happened under our former DA, George Gascon.
Do a Google on YouTube.
But first, let's go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, my BS detector almost exploded listening to Hochman. I mean, this guy, let's not forget, he did not vote for Trump, and in fact, he seems to hate Trump, and he voted for Kamala Harris. I mean, I've never figured that out. But this guy is a game player. He doesn't want to be on the outs with the local politicians. If this guy were serious, he'd start going after these corrupt nonprofits and the really horrible influence they have on city and county leaders who are squandering our tax dollars and resources to keep drug addicts loaded and ill. And I don't know why he won't go after the low-hanging fruit like Barbara Ferrer and Imelda Padilla, who yesterday we heard her conspire or try to entice the police chief to break the law. And here's Barbara Ferrer keeping these drug addicts on the street and providing illegal drug paraphernalia with help from Imelda Padilla's call for more money for this garbage. And then there's Felicia Adams Kellum, writing $2 million checks to her boyfriend or husband or whatever he was. So I don't believe this guy. He's got a lot he can do. He's just going through the motions with these easy targets.
I really think that local DAs should be bringing those charges against these crooked nonprofits. We see that happening in San Francisco quite often, where the local DA is bringing charges, even the city attorney bringing charges against the crooked nonprofits. But if that's not going to happen, then the state AG should be doing it, except Rob Bonta is the state AG, and we know he's compromised. But at that point, the feds need to be getting involved. And I just happen to believe that if anyone is paying attention to the grift that goes on with our crooked nonprofits, including Churla, which has this rapid response team that had people disrupting that first ICE operation on Friday, you got to imagine that Bill Asaley is on it.
Well, there's a thing called State Government Code 1126, which is conflict of interest by public employees. And it's been used in the past by district attorneys. And it's also been pointed out by, when there used to be a newspaper in this town, and people they know they can be prosecuted for that. So you don't have to wait for the feds to get involved. But with this crew, it seems like nobody wants to rat anybody out. But I'm not impressed by going after these yahoos throwing stuff. I mean, they need to be prosecuted, but these guys are being paid, as everybody knows, by these big outfits like Churla, which, by the way, Churla, I don't know how Churla keeps its nonprofit status. There was a church in Pasadena about 10 years ago that had its tax-exempt status questioned by the IRS because the preacher endorsed a political candidate. So they've gone way beyond that standard with their corruption.
Yeah, I think we need to reimagine the whole concept of nonprofits at this point, because if all of your funding is coming from government contracts, you are not a charity. Thank you so much for the call, Bill. Appreciate it. All right, let's hear what these people did that are getting felony charges.
At 5 p.m. on June 8th, Mr. Rodriguez allegedly passed out commercial-grade fireworks to a group of protesters who lit them and threw these commercial-grade fireworks at police officers at the intersection of First Street and Los Angeles Street.
We're talking about M80s. We're talking about the big boys, the ones that you always see some news story a week before the 4th of July where someone blew their hands off, and they're pointing them at police officers' heads.
He's also accused of throwing the fireworks himself at the officers. And one of these fireworks exploded and injured an officer from the exploding sparks. If convicted as charged, Mr. Rodriguez will be facing 6 years and 4 months in state prison.
Seems low.
Second case. It involves Randy Paul.
But that's not something, I mean, that if that's the maximum that you can prosecute someone for that's state law. That's nothing that Hochman can do.
Second case. It involves Randy Paul Ruiz and Georgina Ravallero. Both have been charged with 2 felony counts of assault upon a peace officer. On June 8th, at approximately 3:40 p.m., police were holding a skirmish line at the corner of Temple and Alameda Streets, where Mr. Ruiz allegedly drove his motorcycle into a line of officers.
Oh, I saw that video.
Minutes later, Ms. Ravallero is accused of driving another motorcycle into the officers.
That's a coordinated attack. I feel like we could lead conspiracy on top of everything else on this.
Injuring one and knocking down several others. If convicted as charged, Ruiz and Ravallero each face up to 6 years and 4 months in state prison.
Maybe we need to have a special circumstance or an enhancement for people that do this when police are literally having to put their lives on an actual line.
Third case, Timmy Polk and Raven Mitchell. This case involves both of these individuals being charged with 1 felony count of second-degree commercial burglary and grand theft.
Oh, I think we got some looters. Again, these are just examples of the dozens of cases Hochman promises to file. And these are also the felony cases. Misdemeanor cases, if they do anything about those, would be the LA City Attorney's job.
On June 8th at about 10:15 p.m., Mitchell was double parked near a Nike store in the 600 block of South Broadway that was allegedly being looted by a group of people. Polk is accused of stealing multiple items from that store and getting into the car driven by Mitchell. They fled, but they were arrested a short time later. If convicted as charged, they each face up to 3 years in state prison.
Ooh, that sounds like a Prop 36 right there.
The next 2 cases are Los Angeles Sheriff's Department cases. Sheriff Luna will provide additional facts about these cases, but let me just give a quick overview of each one. Ulysses Sanchez. Ulysses Sanchez has been charged with 1 felony count of assault with a deadly weapon, possession of a firearm by a felon, and 1 misdemeanor count each of reckless driving and possession of a smoking device.
Whoa, that's a whole lot.
On June 8th at 9:35 p.m., Mr. Sanchez engaged in reckless driving in his minivan in downtown Los Angeles. Many of you saw the video footage of this where he was driving in donuts and injuring individuals.
Oh, yeah, because a lot of these protests turned into street takeovers over the weekend.
Mr. Sanchez is a third striker. If convicted as charged, Mr. Sanchez faces up to 25 years to life in state prison. The 5th case is Christopher Gonzalez and Jocelyn Johnson. In this case, they have both been charged with 1 felony count of conspiracy to commit vandalism and 2 felony counts of vandalism as well. On June 9th at 6:30 p.m.
I wonder what the threshold is for felony vandalism, because there's been a whole lot of vandalism out there. And some of the graffiti is really awful.
On June 9th at 6:30 p.m., Mr. Gonzalez...
It's not just bleep ice. One of them said, I don't even want to repeat it, but I will because it is newsworthy. But I saw graffiti in downtown LA today on video. I didn't actually go to downtown LA. That said, save a life, kill a cop. That is awful.
On June 9th at 6:30 p.m., Mr. Gonzalez
also shows you who's really doing all this rioting and protesting. Might be the same people that did in 2020.
Mr. Gonzalez is accused of vandalizing an apartment complex down here on the 500 block of South Broadway. And Mr. Gonzalez allegedly painted graffiti right here on the Hall of Justice. They each face 3 years and 8 months in state prison.
So those are just a few examples of the felony charges that are going out. Hochman says there's going to be dozens and dozens of cases, especially after everything settles down and LAPD and the Sheriff's Department can start analyzing the hours and hours and hours of video that we have to put some of these bastards away. Look, Hochman probably isn't everything that you wanted, but at least it's an improvement from the George Gascon days. When we come back, we'll hear Karen Bass talk about the curfew. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Here we go again. We're just 2 hours away from another curfew. An LAPD Central Division is putting out a traffic advisory. There is a demonstration gathering at Pershing Square, another demonstration on Alameda between Aliso and Temple. Please avoid downtown LA at this time. Several different demonstrations and marches. Oh, boy. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at randykabc@gmail.com. AJ writes in and says, well, I guess they won't be able to close the jail anytime soon. It's funny because LA County Board of Supervisors for 5 years has been talking about closing Men's Central Jail, and Janice Hahn started whining that because of Prop 36 and all of the cases that are getting filed thanks to Prop 36, now there's too many people going in the jail that they can't figure out how to depopulate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. We'll see what Karen Bass had to say this morning on KCAL. Next, it's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. This morning, Karen Bass went on KCAL. Let's hear what she had to say about the curfew.
So can you talk about how you think the curfew worked, how long you think you'll have to be using it, and what people can expect going forward?
Sure. Well, first of all, the curfew will be nightly, beginning at 8 p.m. and being lifted at 6 a.m. I don't know how long we will need it. We will see. I will tell you that last night there were over 100 arrests, but they were for curfew violations or unlawful assembly.
Except for that guy that pointed the laser at the police helicopter and the assault with the deadly weapon and the illegal firearms.
There was no looting, there was no violence, there was no vandalism. So what I am hoping...
And that is true. None of that happened because you let the police do their job.
After last night is that people understand that we are very serious about the curfew and that then they do not arrive tonight. And that's what we will see. But the bottom line is that we're not going to accept the violence, the vandalism in downtown LA or anywhere throughout our city.
Well, not anymore, because they did accept it for the first couple of nights. Let's hear what Karen Bass has to say about our sanctuary city status playing a role in all this.
Well, along those lines, though, you do have, depending on which media people are taking in, there are a number of people within this country who believe that our entire area is under siege, that this is just a horrible place right now. I see all over, social media.
Well, LA's a horrible place for a whole lot of other reasons, too.
Social media, people not wanting to come visit the city, worried about the safety here. Do you think some of this could have been quelled if, we had taken measures maybe locally? I had heard some other supervisors talking about maybe if we had worked more in conjunction with ICE and handed over some of the criminals that are within the community, maybe they wouldn't have to go in and do these big raids and none of this would have started in the first place. What do you make of that?
I mean, I don't know. That is an incredibly naive view of what is happening here, because if you remember last Thursday, the day before the raids, everything was fine in Los Angeles. So I
don't know about saying everything was fine in Los Angeles. LA's got a lot of problems.
Everything was fine in Los Angeles. So we need to be really clear about when this started and why this started. This was a provocation from the administration on Friday that sent fear throughout our city.
If you ask Bill Asaley, the U.S. attorney, it was a federal warrant that he got a judge to sign because of an employer doing some illegal activity.
This was a provocation from the administration on Friday that sent fear throughout our city, people not knowing whether or not their workplaces were going to be raided. You have people who are being picked up who are street vendors. There was a guy who was...
Look, you cannot like it, and you're welcome to protest it, but that is federal law. The federal government enforcing federal law shouldn't be something that's considered outrageous. If you don't like the law, then run for Congress and change the law. Except she left Congress to go do this job. And when they had the power to change those laws, they didn't.
There was a guy who was at a car wash. He was a customer. He was there with his son. His son was left alone after he was taken away. They go into these factories and arrest people. How on earth are we supposed to facilitate that? We wouldn't even know who is a criminal suspect, but Well,
the ones in the jails, we know who they are, and that's exactly who the sanctuary city policies protect, because we don't want ICE going into the jails. Well, it's day 2 of the curfew. Come back tomorrow, see if it's going to be day 3 of the curfew. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.